Alright, tonight we're going to fight gloom and doom with a telephone. Now, some of y'all may not recognize this as a telephone. It even predates me, which is going way on back there now. But was the phone. This is a 1920s Kellogg, and this was called a candlestick phone. And you see them on movies. Andy Griffith, they're using that. This is the part that you don't see too often. All of these phones had this with them somewhere in the house. This was called a ringer box. So to make your phone call, you couldn't dial. So they had a central location that was the telephone office that was called Central in the bigger areas. Small towns like Rural Retreat, everybody knew the operators. They had somebody there 24 hours a day. So if you wanted to make a phone call, you would crank your ringer box and it would ring at Central telephone office. So the operator, of course you would have this off the hook then, so the operator would ask you who you're trying to call, and you would say BR549, or if it's a small town and you knew them, you'd say, I'm trying to get Tim Litz, or whoever you want. So the telephone operator would then ring Tim Litz. Now, Tim's phone would be on what was called a party line. Now, I do remember this. Party lines could have up to 10 people on them, and all on the same lines. So when they would ring, all the phone boxes in the houses would ring at the same time. So they had a code. So your ring might be 2 longs and a short, which would be like, or 2 shorts and a long. So you would know that that's your code, so you would answer your phone. The trouble is, when you answered your phone and were talking, however other people were on the party line could pick up and listen to what you were saying. Now here's the downside of all this. The telephone operators in a small town knew everything because they would listen. They would hear it. They would know everything. A friend of mine moved here into Rural Retreat in 1960, and they were still using this type of telephone. Well, he needed the veterinarian. So he rang into Central, and the operator asked him, he said, I would like to get hold of Dr. Buck. And she said, well, honey, he just drove out of town. I bet I know where he's going. He said, so-and-so's having trouble with a cow over here, so I'll call them and tell him to have him call you. So sometimes it worked advantageous, and the vet was actually going where she thought. He got there and he called my buddy Gail Lawson. So sometimes it worked advantageous, but like I said, they knew all the gossip. Now, this phone system was pretty amazing because, like I say, it was DC, battery operated. New ones are AC. Now, if you lived a long way out of town, to carry that current back to town to ring the boxes or Central was very difficult. So the inside of this thing, this is a magneto. When you crank this, it creates a current which makes the bells ring. The further out you live, the more bars you had. Now this is a 5-bar magneto, which is pretty powerful. If you were in town close to Central, you probably had a 3-bar. But 5 meant you lived way on out there. Now I've taken one of these and hooked it to a voltage regulator and got 220 volts out of it. And you don't think that'll knock a devil out of you, it will. I've had quite a few adventures with one of those. I had one in high school they confiscated from me, and I never got it back. But magnetos were a fun thing to play with. You could get fishing bait with them. If you took them out and hooked coat hangers to it and sunk it down in the ground, if it was wet, and crank it hard, it would run the worms up to the surface. And I've heard of people actually fishing with the magneto. They would drop their rods into the water and crank it and shock the fish, and it would stun them, so they would float up and just pick them up out of the water. I would not condone any illegal activities with this thing. So, that's our story of the phone. Hello, Maybelle. No, Sarah, wasn't it? Sarah was on Andy Griffith. Hello, sir. Sorry, I called you by the wrong name. Hope you enjoyed it.